into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes. Thank you. Would you join us in honoring our country with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sorry. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda with one minor change, ma'am. On number 2, I think in most agendas it shows public hearing. Maybe just make this an appeal, strictly an appeal.
Okay, so noted.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes. As Mr. O'Brien just stated, it says public hearing, but indeed it is not a public hearing. It is an appeal of case 7-2008, which is a PUD for EME fence, 5060 Batavia Pike. So in that regard, we will be hearing only from Representative Counsel in this matter. And if our counsel, Gary Powell, will lead us off in this.
Thank you. Again, Gary Powell on behalf of the Township. The Zoning Commission has the obligations to hear a major adjustment to a PUD. The process is a little bit atypical from what they're used to. In other words, they're used to having a public hearing. This calls for a potential appeal ultimately to the Common Pleas Court. So they should have conducted a quasi-judicial hearing, which would be to allow sworn testimony and cross-examination of the witnesses that are before the Zoning Commission on this application. Because that was not conducted, it's my recommendation that the Board of Trustees simply remand this matter back to the Zoning Commission for the Zoning Commission to conduct a quasi-judicial hearing, and then based on the evidence presented at that hearing, then to make a decision on EME Fence's major adjustment application.
Okay.
And Mr. Guy Taft is here for the for EME Fence.
Sir.
Good evening. My name is Guy Taft. I'm here both for EME Fence and Lamar Advertising. I've heard the recommendation of Mr. Powell, and that is a definite option for you. It would be EME's and Lamar's position that you could simply delete the condition, which is not renewing the billboard lease, and go ahead and affirm what was done below. But that would be our position, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
It would be my suggestion that we follow council's advice and remand it back to the proper zoning commission. So do I have a motion regarding that?
I would move that we remand case 7-2008 PUD-EME fence 5060 Batavia Pike to the Zoning Commission to conduct a quasi-judicial hearing in this matter and then render a decision on EME Fence's application for a major adjustment.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. This is always a pleasant part of the agenda, and it is presentations and recognitions. And first on, in that category, we will be recognizing past committee members for their volunteerism and their service to this township. And I think Mr. Sievers is going to help me with this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rice. It does bring us great pleasure to recognize those members that have served our community for a good portion of their tenure here in the township. We have the pleasure, last meeting we appointed about 95 members to various citizen committees. We have several members whose service ended in 2012, and so this is always a great opportunity to thank them for the time and energies that they devoted to the community. I'm not sure that all of them are here yet, so maybe we'll just be able to recognize those who are here. I'll go through those, and perhaps in the interest of time, we can come back and recognize those that might step in late, since I did not know how long the initial item on the agenda would go this evening. I didn't want to leave them waiting. So I think there's several here, so why don't we go ahead if you don't mind. First person we have is Jeannie Peter, and I'll go ahead and read hers, and we can recognize her if she steps in here momentarily. Jeannie was a member of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals from 1999 through 2012, including several years of the board, as the board's chair. I do expect Jeannie, but she's not here yet. And I know that Dale could not be here, but Dale Bartholomew. Dale was a member of the Township's Development Advisory Committee from 1992 through 2012, including the last decade as the committee's chair. So it's 20 years of service on the DAC. And Brad is here. Brad, if you could please come up. I think I saw you back there. Brad Allison. Brad served as a member of the Township's Development Advisory Committee from 2003 through 2012. He also served on the Transportation Advisory Committee 2005 to 2007. So, thank you, Brad. I'm not sure if I see Frank McHugh. Is Frank? Let's see Frank here. Frank served as a member of the Township's Development Advisory Committee, and actually it was formerly known, and I don't want to date Frank's age, but I'll date his years of service, formerly known as the Township's Planning Advisory Committee from 1989 through 2012. So it's 23 years of service in that capacity. I don't see Frank here this evening. And I know Steve's not able to join us as well, but Steve Verdon. Steve served as a member of the Township's Development Advisory Committee from 1999 through 2012. Thanks, Steve. And Chad. I see Chad come in? Chad Warwick? No. See Chad here. Chad was a member of the Township's Zoning Commission. He was an alternate member for 10 years, from 2002 through 2012. I do see Jack. Come up, Jack. I'll step on the other side here. Jack Knessian. Jack was a member of the Anderson Township's Economic Development Committee from its first meeting in 2008 through the end of 2012. And I know Tim was coming from another meeting downtown, so I doubt he is here, but Tim Marcagi. Tim, like Jack, was a member of the Township's Economic Development Committee from its forming in 2008 through 2012. Let's see. You see Lou. Lou's back there, so Lou, if you can come up. Lou Batch. Lou also was a member of the Township's Economic Development Committee from its formation in 2008 through 2012. Thank you. We're losing a lot of years of service this year, so. Bibby Terry. I don't think Bibby was there. A recognition of her service. Bibby was on the Anderson Township Betterment and Beautification Committee from 2007 through 2012. Let's see, Sandra. There you are, Sandra. Okay. Sandra Coleman. Sandra served as a member of the Township's Betterment and Beautification Committee from November 2004 through 2012. She also served as a number of those years as its co-chair, and she was also on the Township's Transportation Advisory Committee from 2002 through 2008. And last but certainly not least is Tom Heffernan. Tom informed us earlier this week, actually, that he had moved from Anderson Township. Tom served on the Township Zoning Commission from November 1998 through 2012, including several years as the committee's chair. So we thank all of those individuals for their service, and if any of them happen to pop in, I want to make sure we get them on camera here.
Let's give them all a hand.
Yes, thank you.
And we have an appointment this evening. Chief Ober.
Come on up, kid. Good evening. We are pleased to announce a promotional process that was completed, and we'd like to acknowledge the fact to the public and bring to board's attention and have this candidate who has been promoted to lieutenant be sworn in. A little bit about Ken Lovins. Been with our department, started in 1997 as a part-time. Has been a career firefighter paramedic since 1999 with us, and has recently been promoted to lieutenant and assigned to shift 1. So with that said, Ken, time for swearing.
Ken, if you'll raise your right hand, I'd like to administer you the oath of office. If you'll repeat after me. I.
I,
Please state your name.
Ken Lovins,
Do hereby swear
do hereby swear
to uphold the Constitution of the United States,
to uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the policies of the Board of Trustees
and the policies of the Board of Trustees
of Anderson Township,
of Anderson Township,
as reflected in the rules and regulations,
as reflected in the rules and regulations,
collective bargaining agreement,
collective bargaining agreement,
and standard operating guidelines
and standard operating guidelines
of the Fire and Rescue Department,
of the Fire and Rescue Department,
and to faithfully discharge
and to faithfully discharge
the duties of my office.
and to do my duties of my office.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome. Okay, I was informed by staff that our representative, State Representative Peter Stauffer, is unable to be with us this evening to give his typical legislative update to us, although I know that he has made an appointment with me to meet with some of our staff later this week and address the concerns that we have for the 130th General Assembly. So with that not happening, then we can move forward into our public forum. We do this each meeting, and it is an opportunity for the public to address this board on matters they wish to discuss. We do ask that you make your comments concise and contain them to 5 minutes or less, and non-repetitive. But with those requirements, anyone who wishes to address the board may do so at this time. Sorry, please state your name and address.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Joe Trouth. I'm representing here tonight the residents of Riverview Heights subdivision, and it's with regard to the your 2012 plan that kind of slipped by a lot of the residents, and I do have petitions that they have signed, so you can get an idea of who's all involved. There's probably about 28 names on there. We attended the Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission, and we had made some comments that we felt the plan needed some modifications in order to help protect the residents. Because all of a sudden, they saw right next to their subdivision and right below their subdivision an entertainment district, and words like water park and very exciting, you know, outdoor entertainment district and so forth. So we have worked with Paul Drury on your staff to come up with some comments, and I sent Paul a letter on January 8th with a number of comments, and then in your staff report that I think is number 9 on the agenda this evening, you will see that he has, along with your consultant and along with Hamilton County Planning Commission staff, adopted some of what we had requested in there. Let me just refer you in your report to page 79, and I had just a couple other comments on page 79. You'll see in red in his report of January 11th under commercial, he added in red, my comments, any new commercial developments in close proximity to residential uses should be buffered and screened to protect residential uses from visual, sound, light, noise, and vibration impacts. I had suggested that same language to go at the bottom of the entertainment section up above, and it would read, according to my letter, any entertainment uses abutting or in close proximity to residential uses must buffer and screen those residential uses virtually from sound, light, and noise, and vibration impacts. So that change, I think, would give the neighbors a much better feeling of protection. And then the only other one is in the entertainment section. It's the third last sentence, where it talks about landscaping should be used to buffer higher intensity uses. Our suggestion there was the word landscaping and other methods should be used. So we just felt that landscaping in and of itself may not be enough, so landscaping and other methods we think would be a good addition, and then the language that's at the end of the commercial section be also placed at the end of the entertainment section. Other than that, we agree with the changes that Paul had suggested in red, and I think Hamilton County Planning Commission is fine with that too. So we think that would help the neighbors out a lot, and like I said, give them a feeling of protection.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to step forward and state your name and address and speak to the board? Hearing no further comments from the public, we'll move forward into trustee comments. I have something under that, and I'm very pleased about it. I will set forth a motion to adopt a resolution proclaiming with regard to Marty Brenneman. And I'll read it. Whereas on January 22nd, 2013, Marty Brenneman, longtime Anderson Township resident, Hall of Fame broadcaster, and voice of the Cincinnati Reds, will travel to the Anderson Senior Center to tell its members about the upcoming Cincinnati Reds season, and whereas his appearance on that date will represent the 25th year Mr. Brenneman has shared his enthusiasm and knowledge with the Senior Center members, and whereas through this annual speaking engagement, he has brought a little bit of Red spring training to Anderson Township and has been an inspiration and a friend to many. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Township Trustees of Anderson Township, Hamilton County, Ohio, that this board does hereby proclaim Tuesday, January 22nd, 2013, as Marty Brenneman Day in Anderson Township, Hamilton County, Ohio, in honor of Mr. Brenneman's service to his community.
Second.
Mr. Ryan?
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes. I don't see Marty here, but let's give him a hand for what he's done. Thank you. Russ?
I just wanted to note that I had prepared personally a letter to retiring Sheriff Simon Lease, thanking him for his public service and for the wonderful relationship that he helped to foster with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department in Anderson Township. And while there's always discontent regarding political issues with Sheriff Lease, I can tell you that from the viewpoint of our relationship, it has been first class, and we expect from our discussions with the new sheriff, we expect nothing but the same. But and anyone else that wants to also send a letter, I would encourage them to do so.
Thank you for doing that. Mr. O'Brien, you have an announcement.
Yeah, briefly, ma'am. Going to reestablish office hours. I did that the first 2 years of my term. just some level of success. They'll be the first and third Wednesday each month from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in the lower part. There's a trustees room at the lower portion of this building, and basically anyone can come in at any time and talk about any subject. So that'll be the first and third Wednesday of each month from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in the lower level of this building. Thank you.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer is up next. That would be Mr. Kenneth Dietz.
Thank you. We have our usual fund reports, revenue reports, appropriation expense reports. Not much activity so far this year, so can't really tell whether we're on track or not. But
It's all incoming and no outgoing?
not yet. But we'll have at the next meeting, we'll have the end of January reports for you.
Okay.
And a little bit more enlightening.
Oh, good. Thank you. All right, we do have minutes to approve. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of November 16th, 2012, and December 6th, 2012, with minor, if any, changes.
Second?
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Our Law Director, Margaret Comey. Mrs. Comey, do you have something for us this evening? Thank you. Planning and Zoning is next. Mr. Paul Drury.
Hi, good evening. Under our department's agenda is the Ohio Riverfront Plan. As stated in our memo to the trustees, we've been, ever since the adoption by the trustees of the plan and our presentation to Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission, we weren't really made aware of these concerns until that meeting. So we have been working with the residents. I take that back. The residents did approach us prior to Regional Planning Commission's meeting, and we did discuss the plan with them and the activity in the area. And then at the time of the meeting, there has been discussion of some of the concerns, particularly with the property adjacent to the Riverview Heights subdivision. The entire parcel is identified for entertainment uses. That was a change from the original riverfront plan as well as the comprehensive plan for a couple of reasons, and I feel like I need to explain those reasons. There were multiple parcels during the comprehensive plan, which was adopted in 2011, and those parcels were identified for cluster residents. Once the property changed hands and was purchased by Pinnacle Entertainment, the entire property was consolidated into one parcel. So the land use plan, the future land uses are parcel based, and the entire parcel is identified for land use. With that in mind, the land use map, the future land use map, is only one component of the plan. The text is the major component of the plan, and the text supersedes the map, and that is explained in the plan. The future land use designation as the entire parcel was a consensus of the steering team, which had over 30 representatives, including a member of the Riverview Heights neighborhood. It was a consensus of the property owner, which has a say in the plan, obviously, and discussion from our open houses. We had 2 open houses and 2 public hearings, one before the Zoning Commission and one before the trustees. So with that being said, it wasn't arbitrary and it wasn't last minute and it wasn't something to pull over the subdivision. The entire theme of the plan all along has been a mixture of uses in the riverfront area. It's obviously changing, the riverfront area. And the plan isn't just the entertainment area. The plan consists of the entire township south of 275, between 275, the Ohio River, the city of Cincinnati, and Claremont County. So all this discussion has focused and narrowed to one property, which is concerning when you're dealing with a land use plan because it is general in nature. And specific requirements such as buffering, appropriate buffering was recommended in the plan, and those are on my sticky notes, which I provided in a memo to you and the residents before. It was already identified. With that being said, though, we didn't feel it was appropriate to change the land use designation for that one parcel because we felt that the text superseded the land use map and that it was included in the plan. However, we did, at the last Regional Planning Commission, we did request that Mr. Trouth, who at the time was representing one property owner, Mr. Geiser, to propose some text to us to incorporate and to consider. So he did, which is the letter that was in your packet. We took that to our consultant, R.W. Armstrong, who prepared the plan. We also consulted with Regional Planning and just the overall intent of the steering team's recommendations. So we did incorporate a majority of the recommendations that we felt were necessary. The one item we did not incorporate, and Mr. Trouth suggested under the entertainment uses, to have the same statement that was added in the residential land uses. We didn't do that because we felt it was already there. It was just written differently, and I can read that for you. It was, it says light pollution and noise should be considered as a factor when evaluating uses in order to preserve the view shed from the top of the hillside. So we felt like that was already there, and again, it's not specific to that neighborhood. So we didn't add the exact language that Mr. Trouth recommended under residential. We did add higher intensity uses, including entertainment uses, should be buffered. I do agree with the landscaping, because landscaping is only one means of buffering. I think it can be wordsmithed to include all forms of buffering. The best protection is the natural vegetation and the natural hillside as a buffer. This particular property, if developed, the uses sit much lower than the houses. The houses up here, you can't do any landscaping that would shield a development down here from something up here. So, and again, that would be more of a zoning related item, and we feel that the plan gives guidance when a zone change were to come before the zoning commission and the trustees to evaluate that particular development and what would be the appropriate buffer to residential use, and not just in this particular area, but any new development along the riverfront, because it's a common theme in the comprehensive plan and zoning. Those buffers are already built in. But so sorry for the long explanation, but I felt like it was somewhat necessary. We have prepared changes, and those are identified in red. The proposed new text are strike-throughs. Some of these other changes were also recommendations from Regional Planning Commission that they had in their staff report, and so we went ahead and incorporated those as well to run before you for your consideration. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
I have a question or two, Paul. The original committee was formed in late 2011. Is that correct?
They were appointed in January 2012.
Okay, but we've been talking about this for even months prior to that.
Yes.
Okay. So the idea that the committee is forming, because we were asking for members. In fact, many of the committees, I'd say about 5 or 6 of the members on the committee didn't even live in the area. They were township residents, but they lived outside of the study area.
Well, the committee was comprised of property owners and key stakeholders within the study area, agencies, our partner agencies that would be involved with any development in the area, and yes, a couple of residents outside the area to get a township view from those outside the area, as well as members of our committees, our township committees, such as our Economic Development Committee,
Sure.
our Street Tree Committee, Betterment Beautification.
And these folks had how many meetings, how many physical meetings were there?
They were originally scheduled for, I believe the total were 6.
6 or so, yeah. And they had study material that they would actually, and the meetings would last about 2 hours.
Yes.
And they had study material that they would get prior to a meeting, during a meeting, and then after a meeting. So there was study material that they were taking home and actually doing homework, in a sense, and that would entail many, many hours also. And these folks devoted quite a bit of time to this committee. The people that I talked to that were on the committee spent a fair amount of time on this and thought, and they took a lot of information in. And this committee was something that was well publicized, both here during these meetings and in the newspaper and on our website. So I know the folks that spent the time to pull this report together, and it's almost every bit of 100 pages. They spent time, the people I know spent time, actually read the thing cover to cover. I just want to thank them, those folks, for their time and effort that they spent on this. And I think it's a very comprehensive plan, and it does a very good job of helping define what would be best for what's a good plan for this portion of the township. So I'd just like to thank them for their time and effort, dealing with this plan.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Jack Initian was on the committee and came to all the meetings, as I did. It was quite a diverse group, and I believe that a number of times the people who lived in the Kentucky View area attended, at least signed in to the meeting. So it's unfortunate that there's this misunderstanding, if you will, but so be it. There are two things I'd like to point out. One is that when we held our second hearing, because there were 2 public hearings, 2 other public meetings in this matter, when we held that hearing here, we made it very clear, as we have in these vision plans, that in no way does this plan change zoning. We have a zoning process in place. This plan does not change any zoning. It's not hard and fast. It's very esoteric in terms of its final outcome. It's what people today think ought to happen over the next few years. That being said, I would also mention that the Hamilton County Regional Planning has no voice in the decision of this board or our zoning commission. We refer this to them, and they can implement it as part of their big plan, but it doesn't change anything. They could reject it all they want. It's what we decide, and only what we decide, that matters. With that being said, if the people feel better that we put this language in there, but I just want to make it very clear that this has no legal basis in terms of zoning. Period. It has none. But if people feel better putting it in there, so be it.
And in reality, I think it is the zoning that is in place that will ultimately provide the protections and the necessary things that will satisfy the residents as well as the property owners. So,
that particular property, and you're absolutely right, is zoned residential. Therefore, in order to make a zoning change, there must be a hearing. There has have to go through a lot of bells and whistles and jump through a lot of hoops in order to make a change that would not be compatible with what the residents want. So that protective device is there.
Right. Right.
So.
And at that time, there'll be a presentation by the owners on what they want to do. And you'll be able to see specifically what the plans are for the property and if it's going to address your concerns or not.
Right.
You're absolutely right. Now, I can speak on behalf of the owners on this particular issue. They have made it very clear they don't want any problems with neighbors. They want this thing to be positive, not negative, and they're working very hard to make sure they don't have noise problems, traffic problems, or any other kind of problems with the residents of the surrounding areas or the other businesses for the area. So they are comfortable with doing the right thing.
Good. That's glad to hear it. Well, anyway, thank you for taking it to regional planning on our behalf and for making the modifications, which I think are good ones. So is there any more discussion on this?
I would move that we adopt a resolution of the Board of Township Trustees amending Resolution 12-1115-01 and adopting the amended Ohio Riverfront Plan update as detailed before us.
Second.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Paul. Okay. The Sheriff's Department is next, and we have something from Corporal Borman.
Good evening. Just one item on the agenda from the Sheriff's Office. It's going to cover the purchase of 2 sheriff's cruisers from the state bid. And if I could just have a moment just to read over a brief summary. Nationwide in 2012, pricing for new law enforcement cruisers increased. Due to the awareness of those increased costs, $80,000 was budgeted in TIF. Production changes by manufacturers are offering law enforcement packages to include Ford, Chevrolet, and Dodge. After a thorough review of available products and their cost by the current sheriffs and township administration, it was decided that the 2013 Dodge Charger was the front runner. These 2013 cruisers will be used to replace high-mileage cruisers that are already in the township-owned fleet as part of annual cruiser replacement. Therefore, it is recommended that the township purchase 2 2013 Dodge Charger cruisers and necessary equipment from the Ohio State bid. And if you have any questions on those vehicles, I'd be more than happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
I'd like to make a comment, but I want to introduce the resolution first. I would move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 fully equipped 2013 Dodge Charger police cruisers pursuant to Section 505.101 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Discussion.
The good thing about this, and I know that the new sheriff is contemplating making a similar change. We have an opportunity here with only 2 to test this, and next year, if we find that really it wasn't a good choice, it would be important to us that we switch back to something else.
Absolutely.
I have a quick, brief comment too, ma'am. The Charger's got a little more style to them than the other cars.
Yes, they do. They're eye-catching.
Yeah.
I did some research today with some other municipalities in the area. CPD was actually one of them, Cincinnati Police. The negativity of this vehicle is extremely low. Most agencies that have them and have had them for a while like the aspect that it's an actual real police car. It's not a civilian car that's modified to police specs or what they believe are police specs.
Okay.
So the safety aspects and the equipment turnover is better for this vehicle. That people that have them now, they're utilizing them, are stating.
We're not contemplating painting Confederate flags on the roof.
No, no Dukes of Hazzard, no sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Excuse me. Public Works, Richard Shelley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a couple items before the board tonight. The first one, item A, recommendation to award Salem. We are working through that project. We opened bids on that on January the 8th. We're actually still working through the final recommendation process before the board. As the board's aware, we have 60 days after a bid opening to make a recommendation. We'd like a little more time to work through the issues that are at hand with us and then come back with a good firm recommendation at the next board meeting.
That's too an important project, Richard, to not get it right, so let's get it right.
We will absolutely get it right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, item B, permission to bid the paving and microsurface overlay. That's for the upcoming season of 2013. What that allows me to do is start to prepare the bid documents. Obviously, we will not move forward on any bidding or awarding until we have final numbers from Mr. Dietz. Mr. Dietz and I sit down every year, we go over our budget, and we fill in the blanks and come up with a number that we can use at the end so that we stay within our means. We don't overspend on a regular basis. He tells us what we have to spend, and we underspend that. So when those numbers are finalized under the March budget, we will then put together the program. But this allows me to start to prepare the documents and get ready.
Understood.
I would move that we authorize bidding for the 2013 street rehab program and the 2013 microsurface overlay program.
Second?
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes.
Thank you. Item C there, 11C, is the disposition of disposing of some surplus and excess equipment. We have a couple of backhoes in our possession that neither one of them have a lot of hours on. We would like to retain the services of one of them. This one, of course, is available. I made it available to all the other road superintendents in Hamilton County first and to the Park District first. No interest from those groups, but I did get an interest from Ross Township in Butler County. A little remote, but the gentleman who is now the administrator in Ross Township, you all well know, Mr. Bob Bass. He's been a friend of ours for years, friend of this township for years, and he's in need of this equipment.
Good.
We believe it's a fair market value based upon the appraisal from the equipment manufacturers and based upon some research. So in doing that, we can save the 6% commission fee to the auction house by trading directly to Ross Township. So that's the recommendation before you tonight.
I would move that we adopt a resolution providing for the sale of personal property, specifically surplus fleet vehicle.
Second?
Any further discussion?
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes. Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Fire and Rescue Department is next. Chief Ober, do you have anything further for us? Thank you. Township Administrators.
Mr. Severs has the first three items for the board's consideration this evening.
Good evening. Thanks again for the opportunity. The first three items, as Ms. Earhart mentioned, first of which is typically our first meeting of the year. We approach the board with a number of items, one of which is our ongoing relationship with KZF Design. KZF has been assisting us for almost 2 decades now with engineering activities on Beachmont Avenue, and we have a proposal before the board, or a motion actually, to allow us to enter into contract with KZF. Specifically, we've identified a few projects, including continuing to work with property owners as properties redevelop, which we're seeing up and down Beachmont Avenue, assisting owners and tenants with regards to the ODOT's forthcoming access management project, and then completion of the Beachmont Vision Plan document, one of the initiatives of our Economic Development Committee, and one for which we anticipate making an application later this year to assist with some changes on Beachmont Avenue. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer those at this time. Otherwise, we appreciate the board's consideration.
Questions?
I would move that we authorize the Township Administrator to enter into a contract with KZF Design, Inc. for Beachmont Corridor Engineering Services, including coordination with ODOT's Access Management Project, working with redevelopment projects, and finalizing the Beachmont Vision Plan, including implementation of the plan's elements, in amount not to exceed $15,000.
Second?
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes.
Thank you. Second item I have pertains to the Beachmont 5-mile continuous flow intersection project, as well as the related 5-mile service drive project for the southeastern corner of that intersection. As the board's been aware, we've been working with Ohio Department of Transportation, OKI Regional Council of Governments, County Engineer's Office, among other agencies, for quite some time to move this project forward, a project that was born in 2006 and has continued to kind of move forward through those years. We have recently come into an agreement with all the property owners on the southeastern side of that intersection and with the County Engineer's Office. In fact, the document was signed yesterday, so we are seeking board authorization to enter into agreement with the County Engineer's Office for the service drive, and then, of course, related to that is the authorization to enter into agreement with the county engineer for the CFI intersection construction project. Collectively, as I've outlined in the memo, I've outlined the proposed costs for those, as well as the grant funding that's been received for the CFI construction, which would actually leave our cost for construction to the township through our funds at $0. If there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer those at this point in time.
Questions?
We like $0.
Yeah.
I would move that we authorize the Township Administrator, subject to review of the Law Director, to enter into joint agreements with the Hamilton County Engineer's Office using TIF funds for the 5-mile service drive project and construction of the grant-funded Beachmont and 5-mile continuous flow intersection project, which will entail no projected construction cost to the Township.
Second?
Mr. O'Brien?
I've got a brief comment.
Just a minute.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I've seen the plans for the CFI and the adjacent road there. I know there's an issue with traffic at that intersection and the left-hand turns. This is a solution to try to alleviate some of that problems and also to reduce some of the accidents in that area. I do have some concerns about the businesses and how they'll be affected, obviously negatively. And I also have some concerns about the way the striping, the stop bars, and that kind of thing are going to be in the intersection. But as we move forward with this project, I'm looking forward to seeing it to come to fruition, and hopefully it does eliminate some of the traffic problems that we have there and helps reduce some of the accidents that we have in the area. But I'm still looking at some concerns. And I've also talked with, there'll be some concerns about when there's snow, about making sure that our snow removal guys have a procedure for making sure that the road is very clear and how the path should be if there's any snow that needs to be removed. So a couple concerns, but I'm looking forward to having those work through as we go through with this project.
And I have a comment from County Engineer Ted Hubbard, whom I saw last week at a public meeting, and he was very pleased that this has moved forward, as I am. And I do wish to say thank you to the staff, because what this procedure represents at this point is a lot of negotiations and agreements that needed to be met and come to terms with as far as property owners and that sort of thing. So it took quite a long time, but I'm just happy that everyone's on board now. So thank you for that. And if nothing else, we can have the roll.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes.
And staff would like to thank the board. I know this is kind of a non-traditional project, one that we feel strongly about. The county engineer, ODOT, OKI, Ohio Public Works Commission, they wouldn't put their funding into this project if they didn't believe in them. I know, Mr. O'Brien, we've raised some questions in the past, and I appreciate that, and other issues that have been brought forward to us. We try to follow up on all of those concerns and do our best to make sure that what we are introducing in that area is the best improvement for that intersection. I will note, since we had this discussion last year, 2 more have opened up, both in Utah, both in snow-prone areas, and we spoke with one of the folks from Utah previously, and they've had good success with it. But we'll continue to work through it. Appreciate your patience through construction and ultimately through introduction of that technology. So.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to a successful opening, Steve. Thank you.
Third item I have pertains to potential grant application. We are making efforts to apply for Ohio Department of Natural Resources. It should be, and I apologize for the typographical error on the agenda, it should be Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. This grant program changed from 2012 to 2013. OEPA now oversees that project, but this is for improvements to the Anderson Township Recycling Center, located at 7954 Beachmont Avenue on the Operations Center campus. We're envisioning the slight relocation of some of that, improved efficiencies, fencing, lighting, other improvements. I think will take that facility and allow it yet to accommodate even more materials, even though it's pretty much tapped as it is now. So we're in the process of putting that together. That application is due at the end of the month. So again, we have a motion before the board. If I could just suggest the amendment to that being Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, I would certainly appreciate that, because I don't think ODNR really wants it, and they won't have anything to say about it this year.
So
I would move that we authorize the township administrator to make application for up to $25,000 in Ohio Environmental Protection Agency funds for improvements to the Anderson Township Recycling Center, and commit matching residential recycling initiative matching funds provided by the Hampton County Solid Waste District not to exceed $25,000 for such an application.
Second?
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Parker certainly is the expert on it, but those matching funds that we're providing are funds that we get for our recycling. So it's, in essence, we're using the funds that are generated and given to the township, putting it back into that program. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item I have for the board is the monthly listing of events in the township. One thing I would like to announce, that we are very proud to announce that the Cincinnati Museum Center has graciously donated a plaster cast of the Turpin frog. This is a very unique artifact that was found on the Turpin farm many, many years ago. It's was so unique, it has a value of hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is very early artwork that was found in this area by the Native American Indians. It was used as a smoking pipe, and there were several plaster casts made of this very valuable frog. The one that was donated to Anderson Township for display in our history room for our residents to enjoy has been shown at the Cincinnati Art Museum for many, many years. We just received this donation. It is on display in the history room, especially for scouts. I would encourage you. I'm sure this will fulfill one of your merit badges. But the history room is free and open to the public on Tuesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. and then on Wednesdays and Sundays from 1 to 4 p.m. The history room is also available. Tours can be scheduled for certain groups if you have a group of individuals that would like to tour the facility. And the Anderson Township Historical Society provides docents for the room. So you can call the township offices to schedule a private tour. The other events we have coming up this next couple of weeks are the indoor party on the plaza, the winter show, which is sponsored by the Anderson Area Chamber of Commerce in Anderson Township. It will be held on January 31st from 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. The very popular Dan Varner Band, but a scaled-down version, the Dan Varner Trio, will be performing, and it will be in the community meeting room, which is right next door. Again, that event is free of charge, and refreshments are offered at very reduced prices. We also have our very popular TNTRs program, which probably is close to being sold out already. I know that we started receiving calls trying to purchase tickets for this event last year, but it will be held on Saturday, February 23rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. here at Anderson Center, and the cost is $15 per person.
Vicki, if I could go back to the history room briefly.
Yes.
History room's been open, it opened shortly after this building was opened.
Correct, in 2008 or early 2009.
And the items in there were, most of them were donated or gifted, to the room, but there is a rotation schedule also.
Yes.
And if somebody, by chance, has something they think might be appropriate for the history room, who would they contact if they wanted to get into that rotation?
They can contact the township directly, and we will pass the information along to the Anderson Township Historical Society.
Mm-hmm.
The Historical Society has been great as far as working through keeping track of the items and making sure that there's proper identification with regard to the particular items in the room. So we've worked very closely with the Historical Society on this project.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
When you go to the history room in relation to the frog pipe, you need to look at the pictures of the old Turpin farm taken in the late 40s when the archaeologists went down there and excavated. The mound, the Indian mound itself, was, I'm going to say, at least 25 to 30 feet high. It was gigantic. It's all gone now. It's nothing but flat, but they took not just that item, but there were altogether over 200 bodies of Indians that had been buried there over the last number of centuries. They were in a circular area, and then in the center were all of these things that were buried with them. Fascinating stuff, but the house itself sat back near Clear Creek, and then the mound was in front of it. But when you see it, and look at that spot today, it's hard to believe.
Mm-hmm. It is, and the importance of this site, I think, is underscored by the fact that a lot of the artifacts are either held at the Cincinnati Museum Center or the Peabody Museum. They have a tremendous amount of artifacts from Anderson Township, and we do have a book downstairs that highlights where those items are and the historical significance of those.
Perhaps Corporal Boyman can look at the statute of limitations on the fact that they were all stolen by the folks at Harvard University.
Well, we thought we were lending them.
Oh, we were going to...
That's what we thought.
You were there, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've been here. Anyway.
And as the board knows, we did work very hard with the Peabody Museum to try to get some of those items returned.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, we have one item for the board's consideration arising from executive session discussions. If I may read the motion for the board's consideration. Would be a motion to authorize the township administrator to negotiate further as to the acquisition of certain real property originally authorized by resolution number 12-0816-16, providing for additional time for seller to meet certain conditions of sale.
So move.
Second.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes.
Thank you. Lastly, I would ask that the board consider returning to executive session for one item concerning compensation of a public employee or official.
That should be brief.
Yeah. I will announce that our next televised board meeting will be February 21st, 2013, at 6 p.m., and citizens may call 688-8400 to confirm that. So we will not have a motion to adjourn at this time, but we need a motion to convene again into executive session for the purposes of personnel.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Rice?
Yes. Thank you all so much for your attendance.
Thank you.